"We're heading in a different direction," Tyler said with that smug half-smile I'd come to despise. "Thanks for everything, but we need people who align with the new model." My name's Logan Barrett, 38 years old, and I'd served as a senior account executive at Veltri Dynamics for the past 7 years. Or at least I had, until about 60 seconds ago. I nodded. I didn't argue or try to defend myself by pointing out that I'd just delivered the most successful quarter in the company's history. I didn't mention that I was directly responsible for 60% of total revenue. I didn't even bother asking what this new model actually entailed. "Understood. All the best," I said, rising from my seat. Tyler looked almost let down, as if he'd been bracing for, maybe even hoping for, a scene. Something he could use to validate whatever version of events he intended to share once I was gone. But I didn't give him that satisfaction. I left calmly, leaving behind my shelf of top performer awards gathering dust in the office cabinet. Let him keep them. Back at my workstation, I packed up quickly. A couple of personal photos, my favorite coffee mug, and the baseball Jason autograph for me after I helped him secure his first funding round. As I cleared out my belongings, my coworkers kept their eyes glued to their screens, typing furiously about nothing. No one looked up. No one made eye contact. Human Resources delivered the usual exit protocol, reminders about the non-compete clause, a checklist for returning company items, and a link to the exit survey. The woman handling the process looked visibly uneasy. She knew the numbers I brought in. She knew what I was worth. I turned to my ID badge, company laptop, and work phone. "Good luck with everything, Logan," she said with genuine remorse in her voice. "Thanks, I appreciate it," I replied. As the elevator descended, I didn't feel angry. Not exactly. Something colder settled in, an unwavering certainty that Tyler McRae had just made the worst decision of his short career. He'd been at Veltri Dynamics for less than a month, full of corporate buzzwords, Harvard Business Review quotes, and an obsession with transforming the sales team into something more aggressive, whatever that meant. What Tyler didn't understand, and what HR had never thought to investigate, was that every one of my top clients had a personal connection to me. College roommates who launched startups. Groomsmen for my wedding who now manage procurement departments. Longtime friends who were with me long before Veltri Dynamics even existed. On Tyler's spreadsheets, they were just account numbers and revenue streams. To me, they were relationships cultivated over decades. I walked to my car, jacket slung over my shoulder. My personal phone buzzed. A message from Brian, my largest client. "You free for lunch tomorrow?" I smiled for the first time that day. I'd been with Veltri Dynamics since its early days, a scrappy little startup operating out of a repurposed warehouse in Cincinnati. Back then, we were 15 people with lofty ambitions and near-empty bank accounts. I was employee number 8. My job was simple: bring in clients, keep them satisfied, and grow the partnerships. And that's exactly what I did, not by handing out free merchandise or taking clients to the golf course, but by actually caring, by remembering birthdays, asking about their kids, checking in just to say hello, not to pitch something new, by being a resource, not just another vendor. When my college roommate Brian launched his logistics firm, I was his first call for supply chain software. When Jason's health tech startup needed a security system, I brought him in. When Dave scaled up his manufacturing company, I ensured our services grew with him. 62% of my client portfolio came from people I knew before they were clients. The rest came from their referrals. The warning signs started appearing 3 months ago during the quarterly review. Our CEO introduced Tyler McRae, brought in from some Silicon Valley company I'd never heard of. His hair was too perfect, his grin too wide. Everything about him screamed polished ambition with no substance. "Tyler's going to revolutionize our sales approach," the CEO announced. "Make us more competitive in today's market." I'd heard that before, usually from people who had never actually closed a sale in their lives. 2 weeks later, Tyler held a meeting with the sales team. He rolled out a client acquisition strategy focused on cold outreach quotas and rigid scripts. He made a big fuss over performance metrics and data analytics. Not once did he mention relationships. Afterward, Dave texted me, "Your new boss seems like a real piece of work." Another red flag came during a client dinner. Tyler insisted on tagging along with Brian and me, my biggest account. He kept interrupting, spewing corporate lingo that visibly made Brian uncomfortable. In the parking lot afterward, Brian pulled me aside. "That guy's gonna be trouble for you, isn't he?" I brushed it off, said Tyler was just trying to find his footing. But deep down, I knew better. It was the way Tyler eyed my client roster, the way he questioned my methods, but never the results. When he began meeting one-on-one with junior sales reps without including me, the writing was on the wall. I should have seen it sooner. All the signs were there. I just didn't want to believe someone could be that reckless to destroy something that took years to build. I didn't call anyone after getting fired. I didn't have to. By 7 o'clock that evening, my phone was buzzing nonstop. The first message came from Brian. "Just got an email introducing my new account manager. What's going on?" Then Jason, "Some kid just called me. Said he's taking over my account. You okay?" "Dave, your replacement just called. Sounded about 12. You changing roles?" One by one, my phone lit up with similar messages. 18 clients, every major account I had handled, all reaching out within hours. Not because Veltri Dynamics had informed them, but because they wanted to hear it from me first. I sat on my back deck, bourbon in hand, watching the Cincinnati skyline as dusk settled over the city. The anger I had expected never came. Instead, a cold clarity washed over me. Tyler had made a fundamental mistake. He had looked at spreadsheets instead of people, seen revenue instead of relationships, and calculated my worth based on what he assumed I did, never understanding what I had built. My phone rang again. This time, it was Allison from Tralafreight, a client I had brought in 3 years ago. "Logan, what the hell is happening? I just got the weirdest call from some guy claiming he's my new contact. They let me go this morning," I said plainly. Silence on the line. Then, "Are you serious? After the quarter you just had?" "New VP has a different vision." "Well, his vision better include finding a new logistics partner, because I'm not working with whoever this new guy is." "Did they even look at how much business you bring in?" "Apparently not enough. I'm calling Jennifer right now." Jennifer was our CEO. "This is ridiculous." "I appreciate that, but don't put yourself in an awkward spot." "Logan, you've bailed us out of technical emergencies at midnight. You came to my dad's funeral. This isn't business. It's personal." After Allison, I took 5 more similar calls. By 10 p.m., I turned my phone off. I needed time to think. I wasn't going to actively sabotage Veltri Dynamics. That wasn't who I was. But I also wasn't going to shield them from the consequences of their own poor decisions. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Jessica Lewis, VP of Sales at Hailtorn Brewing, Veltri's main competitor. We'd crossed paths at industry conferences over the years. Always cordial. "Heard what happened? Unbelievable. Let's grab coffee this week." I didn't have to guess how she'd found out. News spreads fast in our industry. As I showered and dressed that morning, something shifted inside me. The loyalty I'd once felt toward Veltri Dynamics, the company I had helped build, vanished completely. They hadn't just let go of an employee. They'd severed relationships they didn't even realize existed. I texted Jessica back, "Coffee sounds good. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Her reply came instantly. "Perfect. I have some ideas I think you'll like." For the first time since walking out of Tyler's office, I smiled, not out of spite, but because I finally understood my true value. And soon, Veltri Dynamics would too. The coffee shop Jessica picked was on the opposite side of town from Veltri's office, a wise move. Cincinnati's business world was too small for unplanned encounters. Jessica looked just like I remembered, sharp, confident without trying too hard. No power suit, just smart business casual and a natural smile. "They're idiots," she said after we greeted each other. "Everyone in the industry is talking about it. Everyone. When the top performer at a competitor suddenly becomes available, people take notice." She sipped her coffee, especially when that person is responsible for more than half of their revenue. I shrugged. "Ancient history now. Not according to my phone. It's been blowing up since yesterday. Clients are asking if we've hired you yet." That surprised me. "Your clients are asking about me?" "Logan, you've built relationships across this entire industry. People trust you. That's rare." She slid a folder across the table. "So here's what Hailtorn is offering. Director of Enterprise Relationships. A team of 6 reporting to you. Base salary 30% higher than what you were making. Plus, en agressive commission plan. I skimmed through the pages. The numbers were better than I'd expected. In full autonomy, she added. Build your division however you want. Sounds good, I said cautiously. But I need to be upfront about something, the non-compete clause in my contract. Jessica waved her hand dismissively. Already had legal review it. It's virtually unenforceable. Ohio courts rarely uphold those, especially in cases of termination without cause. Still, I don't want to get into a legal mess. Agreed. That's why we're proposing a 60-day consulting agreement to start. After that, full employment. It was a solid plan, well thought out. One more thing, I said. My clients. We're not asking you to break any confidentiality rules. But if your former clients happen to seek out new vendors on their own, I nodded slowly. That's their decision. Exactly. I took a day to think about it, though the decision was already made. I signed a consulting agreement the next morning. By then, the fallout had begun. Brian's company, my largest account, worth nearly $5 million annually, had paused all implementation projects with Velturi, citing relationship restructuring evaluation. Corporate speak for, "We're not happy." Jason's health tech company had requested full documentation of all systems, preparing for a potential vendor switch. 3 more clients declined meetings with their newly assigned account managers. I hadn't initiated any of it. I didn't need to. These were my friends responding, as anyone would, to a breach of trust. That afternoon, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. Logan Barrett. Logan, it's Jennifer Murray, Velturi's CO. My stomach tightened. Jennifer, what can I do for you? I'm calling to understand what's going on with our client base. Of course, now she wanted to talk. I'm not sure what you mean, I replied, keeping my tone even. I've been gone less than a week. Several major accounts are suddenly threatening to walk. Brian from North Spire Apparel says he'll only deal with you. The relationships I built were personal, Jennifer. You know that. Logan, be reasonable. Those are company clients. I haven't reached out to a single one. If they're contacting me, that's their decision. We need your help with the transition. Introduce your replacements, smooth things over. I nearly laughed. You mean fix Tyler's disaster? Silence on the line. Then, the board has concerns about his decision. We'd like to discuss bringing you back. Same role, 10% salary increase. Too little, too late. I appreciate the offer, Jennifer, but I've already accepted a new position. Another pause. I see. I hope you'll at least consider not actively luring away our clients. I don't need to lure what's already choosing to leave on its own. After I ended the call, I didn't feel victorious, just validated. Velturi had only ever appreciated the revenue, never the connections behind it. Now, they were learning the hard way. 2 weeks into my consulting role with Hailtorm, I met Brian for lunch at our regular downtown spot. It wasn't anything fancy, just a reliable place with good burgers and quiet booths. Tyler's been calling me nonstop, Brian said, shaking his head. Yesterday, he offered a 15% discount if we restarted the implementation timeline. I told him it's not about the cost. He sipped his iced tea. Then he started trash-talking you. Claimed you were already on your way out. Said there were performance issues. My jaw clenched. Classy. That's when I told him we were evaluating other options and ended the call. I heard the same thing from other clients. Tyler was panicking, throwing out desperate incentives while trying to damage my reputation. Standard damage control from someone who realized too late how badly he'd miscalculated. But something else was happening. Something I hadn't expected. Jason called that evening. You're not going to believe this. I requested a full data export just to be safe, and they're stonewalling, claiming the contract doesn't guarantee data portability. That's not right, I said. Section 12B clearly covers data ownership and transfer rights. I know. I've got the contract in front of me. But their legal team is suddenly reinterpreting the language. The next day, Dave reported the same issue. Then Allison. One after another, my former clients were discovering that Velturi was throwing up barriers to prevent them from leaving. I called Jessica immediately. They're intentionally setting up roadblocks, technical hurdles, twisted contract interpretations, system maintenance that just happens to affect accounts that mention switching. Jessica wasn't surprised. Tyler's in survival mode now. The board's putting pressure on him over the revenue projections. This goes beyond basic retention tactics. They're essentially holding client data hostage. Jessica's tone turned firm. Give me documentation. Every instance. Every affected client. Our legal team's going to love this. Over the next week, I gathered proof. Screenshots of disabled export features, emails denying access to contractually guaranteed tools, recorded conversations where Velturi reps made thinly veiled threats about data loss if clients exited early. But the real bombshell came from Dave, who accidentally received an email meant for Tyler. Attached is the client retention strategy you requested. It read, "We've identified technical dependencies we can exploit to slow transitions for the Barrett accounts. Legal believes we can drag this out 3 to 4 months minimum before any serious penalties arise." Attached was a spreadsheet listing all my former clients, each with a specific strategy to delay or obstruct their exit. This wasn't just Tyler. It was a coordinated, deliberate effort. I forwarded everything to Hailtorm's legal team. Their reaction was swift and uncompromising. This was textbook interference and likely a violation of data protection laws. That night, I sat out on my deck again, staring at the Cincinnati skyline. The city seemed different now. 7 years at Velturi, thinking I was building something meaningful. I believed I was helping shape a company with principles. But the moment leadership faced consequences for a bad call, they chose to hide behind obstruction rather than take responsibility. This was no longer just about me. It was about 18 companies, many run by people I called friends, being hurt to cover for someone else's failure. My phone buzzed. A message from Jessica. Legal team has what they need. The board greenlit the full legal response. You ready for this? I typed back a single word. Yes. The calm I'd felt before had crystallized into something stronger. Resolve. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. Hailtorm's legal team moved fast. Within 48 hours, they had drafted cease and desist letters addressing Velturi's obstruction, citing contract breaches, data protection violations, and unfair competition. But they didn't send them immediately. That choice was mine. We could launch these tomorrow, Jessica said during our strategy session. Shut down their tactics overnight. I shook my head. Not yet. I have a better strategy. My approach was simple yet impactful. Assist my former clients in helping themselves. First, I developed a comprehensive guide outlining each known tactic Velturi had been using to hinder transitions, complete with specific contractual clauses that safeguarded client rights. Nothing in the document breached my non-disclosure agreement. It was merely an informative resource clarifying standard industry contracts. Next, I organized a series of casual networking lunches, small, informal gatherings where my former clients could meet one another for the first time. There was no formal agenda, just business leaders and executives exchanging stories. I only attended the initial meeting, making introductions before politely excusing myself. Sorry, conflict of interest. But you all may discover shared business obstacles worth discussing. By the third luncheon, they had formed their own unofficial coalition, comparing experiences, pooling knowledge, and realizing they were not alone in their difficulties with Velturi. Meanwhile, at Hailtorm, I was creating something entirely new, not merely onboarding individual team members, but establishing a full client relationship department built on sustained partnerships rather than isolated transactions. Jessica gave me full autonomy to bring my vision to life. The results speak for themselves, she said after reviewing my progress. The board is thrilled. 1 month into our strategy, the pressure on Velturi began to escalate. Clients were united in demanding full adherence to contract terms, now equipped with detailed knowledge of their rights and Velturi's responsibilities. When several major accounts simultaneously threatened legal action over identical issues, Velturi could no longer dismiss it as coincidence. Someone was clearly orchestrating the response. Jennifer reached out again. Her tone markedly changed. Urgent. What do you want, Logan? What will it take to end this? I'm not doing anything, Jennifer. Your clients are simply enforcing their contractual rights. We both know you're orchestrating this. The board is considering legal action against you for client interference. You terminated my employment, Jennifer. I reminded her, keeping my tone even. Any discussions I've had with my friends since then have been personal, not professional. Friends, she echoed flatly. Yes, friends. That's what you and Tyler never grasped. These weren't just accounts to me. The line fell silent. Tyler's been dismissed. I'm sorry to hear that. I replied sincerely. I knew all too well what it felt like to lose a job unexpectedly. We're prepared to make things right. Full data portability for any client requesting it. No early termination fees, clean transitions. That was precisely what my former clients were owed. That sounds fair. And we want to talk about your return. Executive VP. Direct access to the board. That caught me off guard. I considered it for about 2 seconds. I appreciate the offer, Jennifer, but I've found where I belong. After we ended the call, I reached out to Brian and the others, not to disclose the conversation, but to give them a heads up. You might find Velturi a bit more accommodating going forward. Within days, Velturi unveiled a revised client transition initiative offering exactly what Jennifer had mentioned. They framed it as a proactive customer support move. Everyone knew better. By then, my new department at Hailtorm was coming together. 3 of my former colleagues from Velturi had already joined, with more in the interview pipeline. Jessica stopped by my office one evening as I was putting the finishing touches on our department's mission statement. I heard Velturi lost 8 major accounts this week, she said, leaning on the doorframe. I continued typing. The market's always evolving. And is it just coincidence that 6 of those accounts signed with us today? I finally glanced up and smiled. Must be our improved client transition program. She laughed. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. The board is talking about offering you a seat at the table by year's end. I nodded, but the title didn't matter. What mattered was building something resilient, something that couldn't be dismantled by a single poor decision, something grounded in authentic connection. 6 months after joining Hailtorm, I walked into our quarterly board meeting alongside Jessica and the executive team. The presentation I had prepared was clear and concise. Department growth, projected revenues, client retention rates. After I finished, the board chair leaned forward. These figures are remarkable, Logan. 12 new enterprise clients in 2 quarters. A near-perfect retention rate. What's your secret? No secret, I replied. We prioritize relationships, not just deals. The CFO spoke next. And the Velturi accounts? 14 of their top 18 clients have transitioned to us so far. 15, Jessica corrected, sliding a folder across the table. Northridge Technologies signed this morning a 9-year agreement. Murmurs rippled through the room. To be clear, I added that we had never directly approached Velturi's clients. They came to us, usually after running into problems during their transition processes, which had been thoroughly documented. Jessica nodded, patting another, thicker folder. Our legal team has everything ready, just in case Velturi ever decides to take action. They wouldn't. Not with what we had. Not with their reputation already in ruins. The room grew quiet as the board chair examined the latest figures. Finally, he looked up and gave me a nod. The board has made a decision. We'd like to offer you the role of Executive Vice President of Strategic Relationships, effective immediately. I accepted with a firm handshake. No celebración. No speech. That afternoon, the press release went out. My phone buzzed almost instantly, a message from Brian. Just saw the news. Congrats, EVP Barrett. Moments later, my assistant knocked on the door. You have a visitor. Jennifer Murray from Velturi Dynamics. No appointment. I thought about sending her away, then changed my mind. Sent her in. Jennifer looked worn out, defeated. Congratulations on the promotion. Thank you. What can I do for you, Jennifer? She placed a folder on my desk. Velturi is exploring acquisition possibilities. We'd like Hailtorm to consider submitting an offer. The acquisition was finalized 3 months later, not out of revenge, but because it made sound business sense. Hailtorm's board recognized the value in Velturi's technology infrastructure, if not in their customer management practices. I agreed on one condition. Every Velturi employee would be given fair consideration for roles in the newly combined company. No one would go through what I had endured. On the day the deal officially closed, I drove to Velturi's headquarters, the refurbished warehouse where I had spent 7 years of my career. The place seemed smaller now. The remaining staff gathered apprehensively in the main conference room for my remarks. I'm not here to clean house, I began, looking around at the familiar faces. I'm here because what we're building at Hailtorm is grounded in the very principle that should have protected me here: relationships. They matter. They're worth investing in, worth defending. I saw a wave of relief pass over their expressions. Recognition. Your positions are secure if you choose to stay. Your contributions are appreciated. All I ask is that you bring that same commitment to clients, to colleagues, to partners, into everything you do moving forward. Afterwards, I walked through the now quiet sales floor one final time. I paused at my old desk, now vacant after its most recent occupant had cleared out. My phone buzzed. A message from Dave. Heard the news. Poetic justice, my friend. I smiled, gazing out at the Cincinnati skyline from the window beside what used to be my workspace. The view hadn't changed, but I had. More resilient, more focused on what truly mattered. I replied, not about justice, about building something better. Then I turned and walked away, not sparing a glance at the empty wall where my sales awards had once hung. I didn't need them anymore. The real value had never been on that wall. It lived in the relationships I had nurtured, the connections I had kept alive when everything else had fallen apart.